Hey guys, it's Lee here with Antilles Digital Media. We are going to be talking about Kratom 7-OH, kind of what's going on right now with the regulations or non-regulations in North Carolina. We're seeing a lot of this being brought up in the political space, kind of talking about it. And so many people right now are really unaware of what Kratom is, what's going on, how it impacts people every single day. That's not only families, individuals, also facility owners, the demographic that we work with, but then even now going to, our capital or state capital that people are talking about it. So wanting to bring on someone who really is an expert in the field of addiction, of recovery, working with people every single day. I have Josh Bone here. Josh, thank you so much for joining today.
Absolutely. Grateful to be here. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
No, absolutely. Now, before we kind of get into your backstory, which, we've known each other for years, a lot of people in the Charlotte and the larger North Carolina community, through Anchor Folks Sober Living, how you're helping, so many individuals impacted at such a wide scale, working with facilities, working with individuals, running your own sober living program. What is that like for those that might not be aware of what that is or want to learn more?
Yeah, it's so a lot of people that are not, in this industry or in the field probably use the term halfway house when we're talking about sober living. And something, when I got into it, I specifically changed because I think it sounds demeaning, and halfway between where, So we use the term sober living just to give some integrity and give some value to the lives that we're serving. Sober living is a location. It's a home that presents parameters, it presents structure, and it promotes recovery within the home. Each person is held to a standard of living. They're required to attend meetings. They must be working a program of recovery. Anchor is unique in the fact that we honor several approaches to that. We are a faith-based 12-step, and that's how I got sober. I found God through working the 12 steps, and I honor that today. And we honor that through our homes. We don't limit it just to that. So that being said, they're required to attend meetings. We count church. We count Bible studies. We also count other routes to recovery and other groups that people might be participating in, things like CODA, which is a codependency group, things even like Al-Anon, because a lot of our people were raised by addicts or alcoholics. Anything that they're using as a group to further their recovery. In addition to that, they do have a curfew. They've got some things that they need to accomplish around the house. Just a lot of accountability. Obviously, drug testing. We do an in-house meeting just to build community and connection. I firmly believe that connection is the opposite of addiction. Put 4 or 5 guys in a house, 4 or 5 women in a house, and 4 of them are working a program of recovery. That new person that comes in begins that 5th person that's working a program of recovery. That's the things that I really believe. In my personal experience, I never had the opportunity to go to treatment. Things were very limited when I was trying to get clean and sober. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have family. I didn't have money. So my introduction to recovery was a state-funded detox facility for 5 to 7 days, and then I lived in 5 different sober livings across the state. Truly where I saw recovery happen. It's where I saw one man helping another man, one woman helping another woman, and that was my experience, and that's what I wanted to share. And we created Anchor about 7 years ago. I wanted to create a program that I could work at a restaurant, because that's what I did for 19 years. I could have been able to pay my own way and begin to build a life in recovery, and that's what we witnessed. We served about 3,000 people over the last 7 years. We currently operate 24 homes across 2 counties with 175 spots for people in recovery from substance abuse. It's pretty magical. We've seen lives transformed, families restored, families started. If you can think of it, it's happened. People that have been in our programs now are executive directors for treatment facilities and things like that. It's way above my pay grade, and I can only give God the credit for that.
Yeah, we see that all the time. Obviously, the people that I know that have worked with you, obviously, it's far-reaching. It's I want to say wild, but people that really haven't understood that, they just seeing someone come in, day 1, day 60, 90, and then see that transformation, that blossoming to like a butterfly, and what is possible once they become sober and they have the right mindset, they have the right opportunities, which I know what you're giving there. So thank you for that. Regarding today, specifically what we're talking about is going to be kratom. Obviously, kratom is not regulated in North Carolina or at the federal level. There's not even an age restriction around that. You don't have to be 21, you have to be 18. Even if you're going to buy alcohol, you have to be 21. To buy cigarettes, you have to be 18. Well, 21 now, I mean, depending on where we're at here. But the FDA has classified kratom as an opiate, and there are certain recommended levels that comes along with that, and certain products to be regulated and scheduled. There's not really anything that's going on right now. Most people might see this at a gas station. Some people and companies, some treatment facilities have called this like gas station heroin. And right now, about 1.6 million people are actively using it, and most of the people have never even heard of kratom. So on top of just kind of the basics of what I just said, what are you seeing along with kratom? What insights do you have from people that might have never started using drugs to people that might have been in recovery and then kratom? How does this impact people day to day? So that way people that maybe aren't in the industry, don't know what that is, how it's actually impacting them.
Man, it is probably one of the worst things that could have happened. So, alcohol is my drug choice. Alcohol is publicized. It's made public, and it's attainable, it's cheap, and it's slightly regulated. We have the ABC board, and there's age restrictions and things like that. Essentially, what kratom has done has made these high-powered opioids and opiates type effects legal, accessible, and unregulated, all of which are incredibly dangerous, and also marketed to people that have had opioid use disorder in the past. When kratom first came on the scene, I remember this. I was literally in sober living in Wilmington in 2014. And that's 12 years ago. Kratom came onto the scene. It was a root, and it was marketed as safe, and it was this powder, and it was terrible. I mean, I tried it, and it didn't do anything for me, but the game has changed immensely. Somebody somewhere has seen how marketable this is. Obviously, if you're alive, you understand the opioid crisis and kind of what's going on there. Created a legal substance that mimics the effects of high-powered opioids and made it unregulated and essentially accessible to anyone and everyone all the time.
How hard does that make your job? I mean, you have so many homes, and you're with IOP, PHP facilities, sober living. I mean,
it's created such an uproar, because not only that, up until recently in the last 5 years, this stuff has become, you can test for it on cups and things like that. Still, there's probably a lot of sober livings that, just because these cups are more expensive, the derivative of it is lamotrigine, I think that's the name. I might be messing that up. I can't remember the chemical name of it, but kratom does have, you can find it in a cup, but that doesn't mean that's all of them, because there's so many different derivatives of it that it might not show up on this cup, or it might show up on that cup, and you can't understand why this guy's nodding out in a house meeting, or he shows up to treatment and he passes everything, but he's obviously high. Mm-hmm. And then it goes into the whole, I had guys in my homes that were using kratom, and because they told us, and then they couldn't get detox because there's no medical authorization for detox for it, because technically it's a legal substance that doesn't meet medical necessity for detox. But the high addiction rate of it, and the physical withdrawal from it. I've seen people that have been on withdrawal from heroin and fentanyl, and they've said it's the same, if not worse. I haven't personally experienced that. I can't say that, but I've witnessed it. I've had guys that have beat heroin, that have beat fentanyl, that had spent years away from those substances, get pulled back in by the gas station drug, by I'll try this, it's safe. And it ultimately, I've seen people not die from kratom, but it opens that door back to fentanyl and other substances. That re-gateway. It is just, it's awful. It's cheap, it's accessible, it's legal. And not only that, you're making it incredibly difficult to get help for it because there's no medical authorization. I mean, some private facilities are starting to get auths for detox and things like that, but that's very recent. That's within the last couple of years. They're able to treat just kratom. Before, you had to show up at detox and you had to have something else in your system because I couldn't even tell that was in your system, but you're sick from it.
So just for the people that kind of aren't aware of how detox works, right? If I have, say, a Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Health Insurance, and I'm taking kratom, and I say I might have beaten a previous addiction before, say it was heroin, and then I started back on kratom, and now I'm having withdrawals from kratom, I need to go get help. But when I go to a facility, the facility needs to be able to bill insurance. And for insurance to pay or cover that, they have to say, okay, well, we need some sort of an ICD-10 code, a CPT code. So that's basically giving authorization saying, hey, I have something that's a medical need to cover that. Because we both know insurance companies don't want to pay out of pocket. They don't want to pay for that. So they're going to fight any way they can. So if I have kratom, the insurance company say, well, no, that's technically illegal or a legal substance. We're not going to pay for that. So now people might have to come out of pocket for detox. That can be, $20, $30, $40,000, and then go an actual treatment for that, for the stuff that we're doing at facilities you work with or within your sober living. Like, insurance just won't cover that. It's like, well, no, it's legal. So the people that really need help and want to get help, they don't have access to care, and that's what we're talking about.
Hey, yeah, you almost have to use another substance or something. Now they've recently, that has changed somehow. I don't know all the codes and all that stuff, but I've seen people actually get detox specifically for kratom. But that's probably going to be your more higher end insurance. You're going to be talking about the private insurance company, state-funded detoxes, where primarily a lot of these people who are using these substances, we're talking about gas station heroin, it's going to be your Medicaid population, it's going to be your uninsured population, and there's just there's no help. They can't legally bill for it, so they can't medically treat you. So it puts them in a position, you've got this conundrum of, well, I'm either going to be sick or I gotta, keep using to not be sick and to function. That small window of, hey, I'm using this recreationally to physically addicted to this is so small and so hard to navigate around that people usually it becomes recreational use, and the next day it's a physical, you have to use it to continue feeling okay.
Right, that's opiate. Yeah, when I started my outpatient office, I'd say 90% of the people that came to us were prescribed by a doctor pain medicine, opiates, because they had surgeries, they had accidents, they had something like that. And what happens is it's that cycle you're talking about. Now, this typically is not as fast, but I can't tell you how many people that had white collar jobs that came to us that had an accident, and they said, yeah, I was just taking this to stay healthy, do what I needed to. I was in pain, right? But then, like any normal human body, will start to develop an addiction at some point. I mean, there's no prejudice when it comes to addiction. It affects, doesn't matter what you look like, who you love, where you're from, your age, your body will do that. And then all of a sudden, like, well, I need to go to work. Or if I'm a blue collar worker, right? I need to go to work, because if I don't go to work, I can't provide for my family and my kids, and I'm not taking to do that. But then, of course, it has to be a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. And then that's all of a sudden, okay, well, now the doctor cuts you off from your prescription. There's not a taper. Well, now all of a sudden you have this addiction. Like, well, now I just got to go to the streets. Well, now I just got to go buy it. Not because I want to, but because I have to keep it going. So it's like this cycle, this deadly cycle that you don't even know you're on, because, well, a doctor gave it to me.
And then the kratom thing just makes it even more difficult, because from a doctor, you're getting Percocet, or you're getting the pain pill is. Kratom, nothing is FDA regulated. There's no this is how much whatever the active ingredient is. You're buying these concentrates. Like, everybody wants stronger stuff, so the concentrates say they're equivalent to whatever, but nothing's FDA regulated. It could say whatever it wants on it. They have all these crazy names. It looks like, it almost looks like an ecstasy style drug. They come in giant bags of pills, so you don't know what you're taking. You have no idea, let alone the actual strength of it. There's no milligrams or anything on it. There's no way to know. All of a sudden, you could be taking something that lower level, and then the next time you could be taking a concentrate that's 50 times that, And all of a sudden, that window of taking this to feel better to physical addiction is shut. And that's where I've seen people get stuck. Like they try this, they try that, and it's all under that 7-OH, that Kratom, all that umbrella of those gas station drugs. And then there's no help. And you can't tell anybody, and you don't get caught, which is, I mean, that sounds crazy, but a lot of people know they're eventually going to get caught if they're in sober living, or it's going to come out. But if it's not showing up on a drug screen, then you got to tell on yourself. It's just a very, very sick, deep, kind of dark way to fall back into the trap of addiction. And all you were trying to do is maybe get a little energy or something, or you're trying to feel. I mean, I drink Red Bull, we all drink coffee, we drink caffeine. We do that for the effect produced. Yeah, I mean, we do that for the effect produced. So I'm not criminalizing or devaluing or demoralizing anybody that has made this mistake, but it's all like we want to feel better. And if you're 30, 60, 90 days sober, and like you that feeling is gone, and all of a sudden you're buying a Red Bull, but beside it is whatever. I don't even know the names of this stuff. I purposely don't look at it, but it's just man, I'm so excited that they're taking some steps to remove it, because for those of us in recovery, I mean, those of us that deal with alcohol, we already battle that at every sporting event, at every wedding, at everything. And drinking is socially acceptable. It's actually campaigned and publicized. And
well, if you say, hey, you want to drink, and say no, they go, why? I mean, they don't do that with any other drug. It's like, hey, do you cocaine? No. Well, why not? Right? Yeah. You hear what? No, why not? So alcohol really is that one where it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah,
and it's taken it's those steps towards doing that with these opioid-like. I know they're not derivatives of opioids, but they produce those same effects, and you're making that like socially acceptable, and it's just not. I mean, it's gonna lead right down the same road to the same things, and addiction is addiction, and it kills us. That's its goal.
Yeah, well, the thing that we're kind of talking about, where I feel that we're leading to within regulation, is, for some backstory, during Trump's first term, they made a massive push for more regulations around the opioid addiction, which were needed. No one's disputing that. There are differences between policy and then action, and what actually happens. And what I saw from my dealing with this from my facility that worked with people in outpatient is there were then regulations and rules that pain providers or other doctors had to follow. So someone missed an appointment, if someone could have been, we had patients that came to us and said, took all my medicine by a doctor. I had to miss one visit because I had a surgery or something happened, and my doctor had to cut me off, and there was no taper plan. And we're talking about how this is opiate-like, how it does build an addiction. So I would like to try and educate people on what happened before. We said, okay, well, here's the rules. Here's what's happening. Yes, if someone does miss an appointment, someone might be abusing. Yes, we have to have rules. But there were unintended consequences with that, where people were immediately cut off. There was nothing there. And what we're talking about right now is, well, it's not super regulated. If it is, people might be addicted. But then what's the fallback if they have to go to treatment? What would they have to do? Well, if insurance doesn't cover treatment, well, if someone has to work, well, their next step is, okay, well, I couldn't get Kratom. Now it's not there. Now I'm going to go to something else that's from the streets that I don't really know what it is. And again, we don't know 100% what's in Kratom, but knowing people that getting stuff on the street, it's like, you trust the devil the devil you don't know, but you still really don't know. So what do you feel kind of going through this and seeing that would be a good step to take? Say, if we were to make this regulated, if we were to do these things, how could we implement change that doesn't have these unintended consequences?
Well, I see that what you're describing there, people get cut off from their medications, whatever happens. A lot of those people are pushed towards MAT, they're pushed towards Suboxone, sometimes methadone. Methadone's not quite as prevalent anymore. We're moving towards injectables, which I firmly believe is the best option. Injectables
that keep that dosing there for like 30 days, so that way they don't have to take medication every single day. I saw that at my office because it just you don't have to think about it, right? You don't have to take medicine every single day.
Right. Injectables like Brixadi, Sublocade, that are quantifiable, that work, that take away the need to physically take something every single day. So it removes that addictive action of I got to take this, I've got to take this and I feel better, I take this and I feel better. Those are far and above the choice that I see for MAT. But on the other side of that, I've seen people that whatever, they sell their MAT medication, they lose it, somebody steals it, depending on where they're, they could be living in a tent. People, stuff gets stolen. So they substitute Kratom as their Subox. The difference is that Kratom is not binding to those receptors the same, and the Suboxone is not blocking that because it's a completely different chemical makeup. So they're two different drugs. They might produce the same effect, but they're two completely different drugs, and it allows them to use both at the same time. If somebody is in active addiction, they figure that out, then more is always better, and then that just defeats the purpose. I'm a big proponent of the injectables that remove, again, the daily kind of, if I take this, I get this effect. It takes the thinking out of it. And a lot of times the thinking is what leads to, the next drink or the next drug. And also it allows a provider to actually be in my opinion, a little more controlling. This is what you're getting, and it controls exactly what you're getting that day, versus like, here's your prescription, and it's up to the person, your trust. Again, you got to remember the demographic you're serving. If you're serving a person who has an SUD disorder and you're trusting them to take a narcotic that is going to give them effect as prescribed, that's a lot of trust. And I can't say that, people are always abusing whatever medications, but again, like those are the factors that you got to look at, is that you're serving a demographic that's being treated for an substance use disorder by a narcotic medication that they're intended to take appropriately. So a lot of trust there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of rules, regulations. I mean, there's so much. I mean, that's why you have to, what we call CYA in this space, right? You have to do follow-ups, you have to do testing, you have to make sure they're doing it. Even if someone's completely, you still have to do these, because as a provider, if you let one patient, doesn't matter how good they've been, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, anything can cause an issue, especially in an industry that's so regulated. So that's a good point. I mean, if someone's going through that, there are a lot more options now than where they were before. That can give more freedom. I know a lot of people that try and smoke, stop smoking cigarettes. They constantly have to have something in their hands and their fingers, and that constant physical part, that the physical mental connection is there. And that's a good point. If you take medicine every day, it's almost like, well, I still take Suboxone every day. It's still a drug, right? And that being removed, that was some sort of injectable where you don't have to do that, I'm sure.
It's helpful. I've seen it. I've witnessed it just from, we do allow MAT in our homes, and I, working with Achieve, we work with the methadone population. We work with MAT providers, and the people who are willing to take those suggestions to slowly pull away from managing their own medications into trusting that injectable and trusting their provider, like, we would normally trust a doctor, tend to be more successful, and the medication works as it's prescribed rather than us trying to control how it's working. I mean, it's timed release and everything. I love the progression towards the injectables. I love that Medicaid is pushing towards, approval for the Sublocade and for Brixadi. Both of those, I think, are fantastic options. And it takes that physical part out of it and overcome it. Some people are more addicted to the lifestyle. I mean, I personally enjoyed being at the bar. If I still had to go to bars just to eat, all the time, like that probably wouldn't have been good for me in early recovery. I still have to go to the doctor, and I still have to take this every day, and I still have to feel that same, I'm just glad that we're moving forward and progressing. Seeing MAT save lives. I know there's, it's controversial, but the statistics there are undeniable. The numbers, and sometimes, you gotta keep somebody alive long enough for that psychic change that I believe in to happen. And it might not happen 30, 60, 90 days in a treatment facility. It might not happen 2 to 3 months, 4 or 5 months in sober living. Those medications allow life to continue and to build and to grow, so that eventually that foundation can sustain itself, and that eventually, with doctors overseeing that does happen, and it happens organically, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, starting a facility that did MAT, I always said there's not a one size solution that fits all. I have family members that have been through different use disorders, and they each have done different things. Some have worked, some haven't. Right. So yeah. I hate saying that there's a one size fits all, because that's where it's almost like, well, you got to treat this person this way. So many factors, so many things that people don't take into consideration. And it's good that you're in that space, that you recognize, that you see, that you own your experience and you can relate to. So many people have been through other things. That being said, and what you talked about, you're talking about growth, you're talking about change, you're talking about awareness of what we're doing. You sponsor the CLT overdose awareness. This is now the 10th year in what you're doing. Tons of stuff that we're doing. I mean, 10 years doing something with the Charlotte and larger Charlotte community and the facilities you work with and the groups that you know. That's going on this month. Give us some background into what this is, so the people at home that maybe want to be aware, maybe that have families, friends that, kind of maybe through this, what could they learn about what we're doing here and what's actually going to happen at the event?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give credit where it's due. This event started 10 years ago, and I'm a little over 9 years sober, so I missed the first one, but I was there for every other one. It was started by a nonprofit called Michael's Voice, by Betsy, and in memory of her son, in conjunction with Emerald School of Excellence with Mary Ferrari. And their first event was small, 15, 20 people, candlelight vigil. It grew. I came into the recovery scene and attended, and really wanted to get into this as I started Anchor of Hope and began my journey in working in the recovery field. When COVID hit, we weren't really sure, nobody was really sure what was going to happen, because the world was kind of crazy. And I stepped in and kind of took things on and have spearheaded things ever since, with the help and support of Carolina Center for Recovery, Emerald School of Excellence, and other supporters like Achieve, obviously, with me representing them, and Anchor of Hope. So this event is hosted every year on the weekend of International Overdose Awareness Day, which is recognized worldwide on August 31st. Our event will be on Saturday, August 29th at Pritchard Church in Uptown Charlotte. Beautiful scene with the city skyline. We've been hosting there for the past 5 years, I believe. And I've really taken this event kind of to a new level. It started small, it's grown. This year we will have about 40 plus vendors. We'll have food trucks. We'll have kid-friendly activities, because it's an event for the family. It's an event for the entire recovery community, meaning the families of the recovery community, people that have loved somebody, people that have lost somebody, people that are still praying for somebody. We break this event into kind of 3 segments. Connect and Collab is a big portion where we will have all these vendors and live music. And, it's really kind of a celebration. And that's tough to say when we're talking about overdose, but we're celebrating the people who are actively in recovery, and we're really remembering the people that we've lost, and we want to remember them fondly, even though things may not have gone obviously the way that many people wanted, but we want to celebrate and know that we're fighting the stigma of addiction, and we're fighting that with joy, and we're fighting that with a fellowship and connection. Our second portion of that, we elect speakers for kind of a more intimate setting. This is the Inspire portion, where this year we'll have a mother who has lost someone to overdose, but she is also actively in recovery herself. We have a professional from the local community that will be speaking. She's actively in recovery herself and has grown and now working towards her master's and serves as a counselor. And then we have 2 more with lived experience that'll kind of a unique, I say like a dueling pianos, but it's really just like 2 people sharing a little bit about their recovery, about her recovery, and walking towards each other. They met and have continued to grow as friends and in their relationships in recovery. That speaker portion is phenomenal. I'm really excited about it this year, being able to put together those speakers. Last year we had about 700 people in attendance. I'm hoping we have the same or more. All are welcome. And then our final portion, as the night goes on and it grows into dusk, we have a candlelight vigil in the courtyard there at Pritchard. It's 1117 South Boulevard. And that vigil is really to remember people that we've lost. It is to celebrate the people who are actively in recovery. We recognize those who may be incarcerated and fighting addiction from behind bars. And we also recognize those who are still out there, the term that we use, still out there in active addiction, and we're praying that they come home. Throughout that,
what's your biggest takeaway? I mean, there's so much here that you're doing. I mean, it's hard to even though I'm in this space, right, and I work with facilities and I work with events and our company sponsors events, right, like this this event and what you're doing, it feels like something I've always said when I've talked to facility owners or families. There needs to be a place where you can go somewhere with no stigma, no bias, no judgment. The fact you have people that are in recovery, the fact you're so open about your recovery, I know that I can come to you and talk to you about this, and there's nothing that you haven't been through. There's nothing in your experience that I'm going to say almost everything, you've seen almost everything. And even though you've seen everything, there's always something that's different that's there. What is your goal for where this goes from here? I mean, you've grown it. I mean, it's grown from here to here, but like, what's next?
The unity there. We're winning this. Statistically, as addiction increases, numbers are going to increase. A couple years ago, there was over 100,000 overdoses yearly here in the U.S. That number's dropped below 90,000 in the past 2 years. But that means we're winning. That means that things like this are actually making a difference. Yes. And that's what we want to do. We want to make a difference. I want to send more people back home to their families. I want more people creating families. I want more people connecting and building and growing and starting new lives. Not returning back to those old lives, but starting new lives. I want people to understand that Narcan is not a bad word, that addiction and that fentanyl is not like these taboo things that like you can't talk about. I want people to understand that addiction is not a moral deficiency and that like bad people don't become addicts. People become addicts. And then because of that, they do bad things. And when we restore, the definition of recovery that I love is to restore to a state of usefulness. When we restore people, when people recover, they become new people and they don't make decisions the same way. We become a new creature, and that's what I want people to see is that people in recovery, yes, they might have that past. I don't look very good on paper. I've got charges and they're years old, but like, that's the picture that it painted of who I was, and I was never really that person. And then in recovery, I've been able to create this new persona of who I really am and who I feel like God wants me to be, and that's who people see today, and they trust me because of that. I want other people to experience that. I want people to know that that's a possibility, that they don't have to always be trapped in the prison that they created of the person that they were in active addiction, that there's a way out of that, and that we can grow beyond that. And overdose awareness brings together this collaboration of people that I don't know, it might seem a little scary, everybody's got tattoos and people might look a little different and people might, believe a little different, but unity, that togetherness of the idea that we're all fighting the same thing that tried to kill us. And today we're alive, we're clean, we're sober, and we get another chance to share that with another person. It's incredibly beautiful.
Every event that I've been to in the Charlotte area that I know that you've been connected to, or the groups that you work with, as someone who has been blessed to not have to go through this, but have family members, friends, lost friends, even though I've never been through that, it's almost like we're on the same team. We all want the same thing. And we might have different experiences, but what our goals are, what our missions are the same. And that really what unites us. So whether you're in active recovery, you're struggling, right? You're constantly going through whatever your addiction or mental health crisis is right now, or you're a family member or friend that just wants to know more to try and help your family, your friends, that next generation of people that are going through it. It's always been open arms. It's really is a beautiful thing to see. So thank you so much for taking the time on this to talk about obviously what's going on right now with Kratom, raising some awareness, and what you're currently doing. If someone is interested and wants to learn more about the event, we have Facebook links. I'll drop those in here so that way people can go there and see that. If people are interested more about Anchor of Hope and what you're doing and the nonprofits that you're working with to raise money to help so many people in the Charlotte and the greater Charlotte area, let us know. We'll have some other links for groups you've worked with. If there could just be one thing on a sign off that you want maybe someone that is struggling right now, what would you want them to know?
A little over 9 years ago, I was wandering around the streets of Gastonia. I was unemployable. I was hopeless. I didn't see that there was life beyond addiction. And through finding a faith in God, through building a relationship, through working a program of recovery, there's restoration that is possible. There's redemption that is possible. There's freedom that is possible. I don't wake up every day and have to take or use anything. And beyond that, like, life gets really good when I get out of the way, when I remove substances and I change the way that I think. If you change the way you think, you can change the life you live. Something that I constantly share is that there's hope. We do recover. I mean, that's simple, but that hope, that's what I needed. Hold on, pain ends. And that's really what I wanted, was the pain to stop. And when the pain stops, I can begin to build. There's no rock bottom in addiction. I just got to stop digging. I got to put down the shovel and I got to pick up something else. And, there's hope available and there's people out there, and I can connect you to them. I promise you I can. I can find resources for about any substance use situation. I struggle with mental health primary, but I can really find connections now. The Medicaid world has opened up and allowed us to really find some real help for people, and I'm so grateful for that. So if you're struggling and you really want to get out of this, you really want to change your life, there's a way out, and I hope I can help you with that.
The one thing I'll tell you is that I know the door is always open with you. When I asked about today, this event, that's what's going on, you immediately hopped on, you immediately said, yes, how can I help? And I love that, because you're always offering, as long as I know, you're always offering help first before asking anything for yourself. So I appreciate that. I'll make sure that all the links for anyone that might want resources to have that, to reach out confidentially, discreetly, privately, and also, just like you talked about with Open Arms, no stigma, no bias, no judgment, we'll have all of those and resources. So Josh, thank you again so much for taking the time today and sharing the insights, what's going on, stuff that people aren't really aware of. So I thank you, brother. Thank you.
Lee, thank you for your work. We appreciate you.
Thank you.